Small Scale. Written by Twinkletail. Epilogue. It was quite late by the time everything had been taken care of, and Spike and the girls were tired, but it was all worth it in the end. Moving a dragon's possessions from one cave to another, especially across such a distance, would have been nigh impossible under normal circumstances. With the powers of an Alicorn princess, though, it was far easier. They were all quite grateful for teleportation magic, but the task of moving all the furniture once it was actually in Celia's new cave was still enough to wear them out. The dragon town in the mountains wasn't quite as far from Ponyville as Spike had thought. It was still quite a trip, but if he had tried to escape on his own and found his way out of the town, it would have likely only been about half a day's journey back home. That is, if he chose the right direction to go. He was rather glad he didn't in the long run. The town was set to choose a new shaman, one who would hopefully not be as corrupt as the previous one. Celia, however, was not around to see it. As it turned out, the cave that the ponies had chased that dragon from a while back was still unclaimed. Plus, it was rather close to Ponyville, making it the perfect new home for Celia. Visiting would be a cinch for Spike, and he vowed to do so as often as he could. And a dragon never broke his vow. "Are you sure you're ready for bed?" Twilight asked as she opened the door to Spike's room. "I thought 8 o'clock was too early a bedtime for a mature young dragon like you." "Normally it is," Spike agreed. "But I think we can both agree that I've had a tiring few days." "You certainly have," Twilight said, waiting for him to climb into bed. "By the way, Cadance and Shining Armor say hi, and Flurryheart really wanted to see you." "She can't even talk yet," Spike said with a smirk, climbing into bed. "How would you know that?" "Trust me, I know," Twilight said with a giggle. "And before you ask, yes, I did pick you up some of those delicious Crystal Empire gemstones you love so much. I'd give them to you now, but you know my policy about snacks in bed." I could get out of bed," Spike offered quickly. A yawn was quick to fight that desire, though. "They'll be right there for you tomorrow," Twilight said with a smile. "Right," Spike said. Then he sat up. "Oh, I have to make a wish to Bahamut before I sleep." "A wish to Bahamut?" Twilight asked. "It's a dragon tradition," Spike explained. Twilight giggled lightly. "Go on then," the Alicorn said. "I wish," Spike said, "that Celia will be happy and eventually have a whelp of her own." "That's very noble of you, Spike," Twilight said with a smile. She leaned in and gave Spike a kiss on the forehead. "Good night, Spike. I love you." "I love you too," Spike said, before hesitating for a moment. "Mom?" Twilight had started to walk out, but turned around at that. She stared at Spike in surprise, tilting her head. "Was that too much?" Spike asked. "Not at all," Twilight said, blinking back a few little tears. "So, whose turn is it to raise the sun tomorrow?" Bahamut gave Celestia a little grin. The manner in which she'd asked was so cheeky, but that came as no surprise. That was exactly the Celestia that he'd known for centuries. "Perhaps I shall, if you don't mind," Bahamut said. "It's been quite a while." That was Small Scale, written by Twinkletail. I must admit, I was first drawn into this story with the thought of Spike interacting with his own kind. But as I continued on, I was very intrigued by even the slightest possibility that Celia might actually have been Spike's real mother. I mean, what would have been the right course of action if that really had been the case? But even though I was a little disappointed that such a plot point remained open-ended, it actually does leave a lot of potential for a sequel story someday. Plus, I think the most clever moment of the entire tale actually comes right at the very end. After all, much of the conflict for these characters centers around assumptions they've grown up with in regards to other races in Equestria. And while we could easily tell that many of Celia's claims about ponykind had to have been misunderstandings or propaganda spouted by the town shaman, the idea of sprinkling just a little bit of truth to her claims was a brilliant way to end the story. I mean, how many of us fell into the trap of just assuming that since we've seen Celestia raise the sun so many times in the series, that any claim otherwise must be false? I know I did. And to be honest, it actually got me thinking quite a bit about those same assumptions that Celia made about ponykind throughout the story. And really how any of us could fall into that same trap. What do you think? I am Dr. Wolf, and I look forward to hearing from you.